Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Bunker Buddies podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Blackout, Brannon.
And I'm your other co-host, JD.
And this is the Bunker Buddies podcast. We talk about cryptids, conspiracies, mysteries, murders, and much, much more. And today, our subject is John Wayne Gacey. All right, so before we get started, usually we talk about beer podcast.
We have one.
I've almost
I already
finished
chugged it while we were setting up, but it is Blue Moon.
Mango wheat, a nice, very summer one, I do believe.
Yeah, it's
pretty
great.
light.
Love it. Great go-to one. Didn't want to do anything too serious because this is one I know very little about. This is a full Blackout episode.
Oh no, this is bad. Because I didn't write nearly as many notes as I wish I would have, but I was injured. I'm going to use that for my excuse for everything that happened.
Injured. I pulled a muscle.
It's in the paperwork. But so for those of you that don't know, he's basically known as the Clown Killer. Is that basically all you know him as?
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into these actual murders and everything he's known for, let's go ahead and walk it back to his upbringing. All right.
All right. So the history of John Wayne Gacey.
We gotta get an animation for that whenever that happens.
I love that.
We didn't have like an animation of like something appearing on screen with the words there. All right, but until then, you get to stare at our beautiful faces. All right, so March 17th, 1942, John Wayne Gacey was born. He was born to his father with the same name, John. I think it was John Wayne Gacey as well. Maybe it was just John Gacey. But John Gacey was a World War I veteran who was a raging alcoholic. I'm talking like... They didn't have a word for PTSD back then, but...
PTSD.
He had PTSD. Yeah. And, which is more than likely why he was such an alcoholic and why he was such a... Now, this isn't an excuse, but this is an explanation for why he's going to be such a horrible piece of shit.
Okay.
So he was a raging alcoholic, and he was this was his first son and his only son after having two daughters already. Okay. And he wanted a very masculine son. All right. Which is why he named him John Wayne Gacey. Actually, was so that
after
he was
John Wayne,
hoping that the masculinity of John Wayne would rub off on him.
Got it.
It did not. and John Gacey Sr. was very, very displeased about that. His favorite means of hurting him and the two other kids was with a not necessarily an actual like belt for your pants, but for a belt that you would like sharpen a blade on, and he used that to beat the kids whenever they were.
You're talking about like a razor.
Yes. So like
a sandpaper type material.
A thick leather gritty belt.
Oh, that's gonna leave a mark.
Fuck yeah, it will. We already got the F words out of the way early, alright?
Alright.
So, he wouldn't just use that for punishments either. So the way it's described is he wouldn't just use it for punishments, he would use it anytime he was driving home a moral point after an argument.
Interesting.
So he just uses it as an excuse basically to beat his kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was basically it.
At least it was on vibrate. I appreciate you.
No problem. So, at the age of 4, he was molested by a 15-year-old with Down syndrome. She lured out.
Oh, so it was a 15-year-old girl with Down syndrome. Okay.
Yeah, she lured him out to the field and molested him at the age of 4. He didn't really like comprehend that because he's 4 years old. He's a toddler at best right now, right?
Yeah.
And he was molested by a 15-year-old girl, and this caused quite an uproar in the house, but he didn't quite understand why, and so he actually suppressed that memory for a long time. It was something that he barely remembered, but his parents vividly recalled. He didn't really beat his wife much until later in his life. I think this is by the time John Wayne Gacey was about 6 or 7, and it was almost out of nowhere. She said usually he would only yell, but he never got violent. But after he got violent with her the one time, she moved out of the house, which, as you know from probably stories, that doesn't happen very often, where a wife is able to just up and leave.
So good for her.
Unfortunately, she wasn't able to afford living on her own, and she had to move back.
Not so good for her.
Yeah, very, very short-lived, actually. I think it was only a few months, but
Okay.
that did suck. When his mother would tell his father when his mother would tell him, like, hey, your son did this at school today, or he did this today, he would brutally beat the shit out of him using that belt. And so it got to the point where his mother stopped telling him about it, as you do if you're trying to protect your kids. However, what she was doing instead was more psychological punishment. She would have him sit alone in her room wearing her underwear as punishment, thinking about what he did. Very, very weird shit.
Why? Like, why?
What's the point you're trying to drive home here with this
What's
punishment?
the point? Also, I don't want to be the PC police or whatever, but I'm just saying that this is a developing child, and by putting them in like a feminine underwear, this is really giving you that blurred line between genders and sexuality.
This is too much to give a kid this.
Yeah, that's
young.
way too much.
And actually, that may have been what caused that, and the molestation he had at 4 years old was just some of the traumatizing things. And he recalled that he had, and I quote, a raging boner while this was happening, while he was sitting there in those room alone too. So he was getting messed up.
Also, it's not anybody's underwear. That was his mother's underwear.
Yeah.
He was wearing his mother's underwear. That is gross. That is gross.
So fucking
Just
weird.
wearing someone else's underwear, period, is gross.
Yeah.
But your mother's underwear?
Respectfully, what the fuck? Anywho. But wait, it gets worse.
Okay.
So that was just one of the few odd punishments that she would give to him. Whenever he was 7, his father's coworker would regularly give him rides to and from school and stuff like that. And almost every time, these rides would lead to molestation and quote-unquote wrestling.
What is quote unquote wrestling?
What do you think quote-unquote wrestling is?
He's a child.
7 years old.
I don't want to feel pity for him because it's not an excuse for what he did.
Yes.
Because I don't want to jump too far
They're
ahead.
making a serial killer.
33 people were murdered. 33. The last one we did was Jeffrey Dahmer, and he did 17. We bumped that number to 33. All I'm saying is, this is making someone very unstable, and I'm not saying this is why or this is a
It's
valid
not an
reason
excuse.
or excuse to do this,
Yes.
but I'm just saying this is the 13th reason why.
There's more than 13.
There's
They said this was
plenty.
a regular occurrence, by the way,
That,
for years of his life.
taking out who he is as a person,
That's gonna fuck
if you're
a kid
just
up.
looking as a child, that was a child. Mm-hmm. That must have been a terrible childhood.
Like, I know we're supposed to hate John Wayne Gacey because he was a shitbag, right? He was a piece of. He was a horrible human being. But this is what made him into that. This right here is what made him into that.
All right, keep going.
So, the worst part was he didn't tell his father because he was afraid of the punishment because of how severely he was beaten all the time.
Okay, please start making me hate this guy. Please start making me hate this guy.
We'll get there eventually. Believe me, you'll hate him eventually. Right now, you're feeling a little bad for him, but don't worry. That'll change soon enough. It's fine. So, as he got older, his father graduated from hitting him with that belt to just straight up punching him straight in the face with his fists and kicking him while he was on the ground. That didn't... And about that time was also... He was never really interested in sports, okay? He was...
Well, from what I understand, he was very effeminate.
Yes. He wasn't interested in sports. He wasn't interested in doing manly things, which it pissed his father off even more, giving him more of an excuse to beat the shit out of his kid.
So in my head, this is a person born out of Chicago with an abusive alcoholic father. In my head, this now either goes one of two ways. You either do end up with John Wayne Gacey, or, and here's the split, or you end up with Chris Farley. Because not everything is point on point, but I'm just saying, out of Chicago, abusive father.
Don't worry.
Very effeminate.
It gets worse.
Okay. Okay.
So,
all right, let's draw these lines farther apart.
So, whenever he was about 10, he started to have fainting spells, and he spent months in the hospital just trying to figure out what was wrong with him. Anytime he did something physically active, there was a huge chance that he had a heart condition that would just make him faint. And this obviously pissed his father off more, because I have a weak son. And in later interviews, John Wayne Gacey would say that he felt bad that he was never able to live up to his father's thing, because he was only trying to make him stronger. He was only trying to make him better.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Okay.
It's really sad.
Okay, stop making me feel pity for this person.
No.
There's more?
There's more.
But wait, there's more.
So,
all right, come on, Billy Mays.
whenever he got to about 15, 16, his father bought him a car. That sounds really freaking nice, right?
What kind of car?
I don't remember.
Okay. I thought it was going to be like, here's a little matchbox, get yourself to school.
Yeah. No, it was actually it was a car. It worked well. But he would take it away for no fucking reason. He'd take the keys away because he was an abusive father, and was just like, nope, you don't get the car. And they got to the point where he got a spare set of keys made while he was out one day. So his father just took out the distributor cap.
That's savage. That's kind of funny. Like, as messed up as that is, as a father, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. So he gave him back the distributor cap. He put it in there, and the only reason why he did that is because he was too drunk to drive his wife to a party. So he had his son do it. His son took his mom to a party. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna put air on the tires, and then I'll be able to pick you up afterwards." And then nobody saw him for 3 months. He took off. He left his abusive household and he took off. It was a breath of fresh air. He felt like he could finally live on his own. And then 2 months later, he ran out of money and had to move back.
Oh my God.
But eventually he was able to move out of his parents' house. He did get to his grandparents' house, I believe. I didn't get this far on the notes with his childhood, but it felt like fresh air. He joined what's the name of that one club that has like a ton of U.S. presidents and businessmen in it?
The Democratic Party?
No. Well, yes, but it's basically.
Are you talking more about like
It's basically
the cults?
No, it's more like a leadership thing that is more of a networking group as well, and so people like 5 different major serial killers, but also like 5 major U.S. presidents were all part of this. So it's got some.
Is this a club that we've talked about before?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what you're talking about, because what I'm imagining is I'm thinking of the not the Illuminati. What are they called? The
Bilderberg Group.
No.
Okay.
It's the other cult. It's the Walt Disney was a part of them.
Illuminati?
No, not Illuminati. I have friends who are part of them. They're
Masonry?
Masonry, yes.
All right.
The Freemasons. That's what I was thinking.
Leadership
of.
group. John Wayne Gacey.
I love live notes.
Live notes. John Wayne. No.
Junior Chamber.
I that may be it. I don't remember what the name of it is.
It's probably like a junior chamber. He was still a young man.
Oh wait, here's the name of it. Ooh. post effects. So this is whenever he was trying to get his life together. Okay, so he joined that group. He became, being that he was kind of a piece of shit, we know as John Wayne Gacey becomes a piece of shit, he joined the political party they felt like would automatically get him wins, which in Chicago area was the Democratic Party. He joined it because he knew it would be easy, and he did not prescribe to the ideals of either the Democratic Party that he was serving or the leadership group that he was serving either, because he was John Wayne Gacey.
Okay.
All right.
But he starts building this name for himself, yeah?
Yes, he starts to become a prominent community member. People like him. People trust him.
Is this also around the same time he starts getting his construction business?
This is right before he starts his construction business. So not only is he's a businessman, he's a politician. He was actually known for like just giving money to people who needed it in his community. So donated to charities all the time.
So he is like almost the ideal 70s man.
Yes.
In Chicago. Like these are like very like common stories you hear from families out in Chicago where you have that person in the neighborhood. You go to John, he's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
If we need anything, John's our man. So I get that. Like you get that strong character in the community.
Yeah. Which made actually trying to get to him a lot harder. Whenever it came to trying to get the victims to believe him, became a lot harder. So,
okay.
Yes.
So he's getting this political background. He's going to start opening up a construction business. Mm-hmm. And while he's doing all that, he's also doing kids' birthday parties?
Yes. So this is whenever whenever I said he donates to charity events and stuff like that, he volunteers as Pogo the Clown at the same time.
So John Wayne Gacey, especially because this is early, like throughout the 70s, John Wayne Gacey is the inspiration for almost all clown killer movies.
Yes.
All going to Stephen King.
He was the first clown killer that was like, it wasn't even a thing.
So if you are afraid of clowns, this is the man you're upset with.
Yes.
John Wayne Gacey, because I love clowns.
If you have... fuck you. If you have any reason to hate Gacey, that's probably like the bottom of the list, but it's still on the list regardless.
You know what's worse? You know what's worse than a child killer? What?
A child?
A clown killer? I know what meme you're talking about. You're talking about this one.
Yes. A child. No. Making me do edits. What the fuck? All right.
Yeah, I'm going to make you do edits. Also, I'm having you read these notes that I've cropped and pasted all over this.
All right. So, because I am very, very shit at taking notes and I'm reading a reasonable amount of time, he basically copy and paste the notes and I'll fill in the blanks that the notes don't cover.
Okay.
So, in 1972 and 1978, he started building his contracting company and he works as Pogo the Clown all the time at children's birthday parties. And, lots of times he lures men and boys to his home just outside of Chicago, and usually he'll strangle, drug, or stab them.
So what I want to point out with the victims though is that we said boys and young men, and I want to clarify that young part. The oldest victim I believe they have of him is 22. Like 22.
Yeah,
like it ranges from literally 13 to 22.
I think one of them was like fucking. I think he had like a 12-year-old.
It might be, but again, like these are young men and boys, nothing in between. Mm-hmm. Young men and boys, which I can argue that this is worse than Dahmer.
Yes,
this is worse.
100%.
33. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the worst part about most of these stories that that I'm going to talk about today is we only have Gacey's side of the story. And unlike Dahmer, Dahmer just kind of like, he said the facts that made him look like shit.
Dahmer actually expresses in a couple interviews how upset he is with Gacey because Gacey doesn't talk about it. He lies constantly. Mm-hmm. And Dahmer was all like, yo, you're caught.
Yeah. Just
tell him.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the things is, so a lot of times you'll hear that like, oh, this So he had a couple of kids. I don't remember the name of these kids, and I'm not sure if you're going to talk about this later in your story. We're going to use this basically pretty loosely, I'd say.
Yeah, and I don't want to use victims' names, so if we can avoid victims' names.
Oh, I don't know anybody's name, so we're good.
I purposely did not put victims' names in here and certain names because of that.
So he would, let's go with this one story. He hired a couple of kids to vandalize, I think it was in a political opponent's... No, that was a different story. We're going to ignore that one. Okay, that was somebody else entirely. Just take that last couple seconds and throw that away. All right? Oh,
so what's the story?
No.
What's the story that you're going to tell me?
No, they're going to hear me talking about how that story wasn't...
Oh, you don't want to make crazy edits?
Oh, no, that's an easy edit, but I don't want to. I want to make sure everything's here.
Tell me the story. We're out of time crunch.
Okay. So, this guy, okay, he gets picked up. He's hitchhiking, and the guy
always a hitchhiker. Always a hitchhiker.
Poor dudes. He gets picked up by by John Wayne Gacey. John Wayne Gacey goes, "Hey, you need a ride?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to this end of town." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to the other end of town." And he goes, "Hey, how'd you get hired with that company?" He goes, "I actually run it. If you're interested in a job, I can help you out. Here's my number." A couple hours later, he's at a bar, he's had a few drinks, and he goes, "Hey, I think I want that job." He goes, "All right, where you at? I'll come pick you up. I got a job right now." So he comes over, he picks the guy up, and they take off, and they said they got a last minute job to go paint a hot dog stand. Okay? And he starts bragging about how this is like a $1 million company, okay? Now he said like $400,000 because that's about $1 million nowadays.
Yeah.
But he started talking big shit about his company. I'm talking big shit. He was the best thing. And then he was going to go paint...
Which that, to me, I'm gonna quickly tie this to his childhood, makes sense. Now knowing his history, him bragging about how great his company is, makes sense. He wants the big dick energy, and he's living that dream, being politically in power, and being that tie in the community to having this company. He doesn't have to be athletic anymore. He doesn't have to be the tough guy. And he could pay people to do it.
And you know what the thing is? He actually got approval from his dad around this time as well.
Big dick energy. Love it. Okay, keep going.
You love this energy? All right. So anyways, he takes the kid over there and he rapes and kills him. All right, I jumped ahead a few steps.
What's the steps you missed?
So he goes over and he sees this $400,000 company. He's hired a bunch of teenagers to paint a hot dog stand.
Okay, there's a reason now that this is a nice company, because they hire children labor. Okay.
But actually they paid, I think it was like $13 an hour.
Child labor. It's child labor. Anyways, continue.
And I think he was 15, 16. So it's not really child labor, I mean.
He was a boy. Okay, continue. I don't care. What happens next?
So he says, all right, he started talking like weird shit. He started so imagine the clumsiest way you've ever thrown something into the middle of a conversation. Okay? Now imagine that 10 times worse, mentioning that he's bisexual. Just like thrown in the middle of the conversation. And then he's got lots of drinks back at his house, okay? Kid's not interested. No, I'm not into that. Anyways, he says, all right, that's fine. The next month, he has another job for him. He needs him to come clean out his garage. So while cleaning out his garage, he's like 16, 17 at the time. He's not old enough to buy alcohol. He sees a box full of wallets with kids loosely matching his description. So what do you think he does?
Goes to the police?
Wrong. Big mistake. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. He grabs one of the wallets. He finds the driver's license that looks close to him, about the age of 21. Says, "Hey, can I have this so I can buy alcohol?" He goes, "Sure. That's from my time working with the syndicate. I don't really do the hit jobs or anything. I just help arrange them sometimes." And the guy's like, "Sure, dude. Whatever." Because the syndicate sounds like the most made-up fucking criminal organization ever.
So you find a box of trophies, right? And what you want to do
is you want to go to the police. You go to the police and you tell them everything you saw.
Red flags. If you have a box full of people's driver's license and IDs that don't belong to you, that's a red flag. I want to do a whole episode where we're just gonna be like, that's a red flag.
Red flag.
And that's a red flag. I just want you to put red flags here now. That's a red flag, and that is a red flag. Know your colors.
Don't look at me like that.
Okay, so obviously he takes the ID.
Yes. He goes out. He gets hammered. Kid with a fake ID kind of shit. But eventually he goes, hey, I'm gonna bump up your raise to 1366, and I need to rent out my room. I need to rent out a room in my house. What do you say? And he goes, that sounds lit, because he can pay for his rent.
And doesn't have to travel for work.
Yep. And almost a day or two, he could pay off his rent, and he'll be fine. So he goes, yeah, I'll do it.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah, that is pretty nice.
In Chicago?
However, you're working with your boss, or you're living with your boss.
I guess calling out sick would be hard, especially.
Yeah.
Or being like, oh, there is traffic. And be like, you're down the hall.
Sorry.
Construction in the hallway.
Yeah, there's construction going on. Like,
oh, I'm sick. As you're pulling out a chocolate milk from the fridge.
So, one time he gets, it's 21st birthday. He can actually use his real ID. He gets smashed.
Okay.
Fucked. Flabbergasted. Wasted. Foobarred.
Faded. Okay.
And then he goes back home. And he sees the clown sitting on the chair.
Just a clown or Pogo the clown?
The clown. Pogo the clown.
The clown.
So, John Wayne Gacey being weird as shit. Now, I didn't mention, but this guy is gay. This is going to be important later in the story, okay?
Who is gay?
The kid.
The kid is also gay.
Okay.
Okay.
John Wayne Gacy's like, hey, I know you're turning 21 today. I thought it'd be kind of cute if whenever you came home, I was dressed up as Pogo the Clown, since I got an anniversary or a charity thing I had earlier today. And he's not that interested, obviously. He's like,
Yeah, this man's like, what, in his like 40s?
And he's like 300 pounds.
Yeah, he was not a small guy.
No, he was a
big, hefty Chicago man.
And he was greasy.
Yeah, he worked construction. Yeah.
But it wasn't like normal greasy. It was like greasy.
Yeah.
So, he goes, this is not really interesting. Well, how about we just have a few drinks then? So, gives him a shot of Everclear.
Oh, what a great bop that should have been. We're gonna do that. Adding it to the list.
I don't want to fucking go blind. This was like
we're putting that Everclear right next there to Absinthe.
It was 94%.
Oh, I can get you some 110%. Let's go.
What?
Oh, I got it, guys. I got guys here in town that do it out of their bathtubs.
Oh, no. For legal reasons, that's a joke. FBI, DEA, we're not.
I'm buying stuff out of bathtubs.
I already have enough problems with the ATF. I don't need to do. I've already got the tobacco and firearms. I don't need the alcohol, too.
No, let's get it. I'm kidding. This is all a joke.
For legal reasons, this is all a joke.
Don't check the bathtub.
We're going to have to start using our own IP soon enough, right?
No, I just keep using other people's IPs.
So, he gets Everclear, and then pours him a drug shot. And he is fucked up. And it was actually like they knew they were putting drugs in their drink. Okay. It was like a sedative of some kind. Then they put him in the drinks, and then he goes, and he started talking in his Pogo voice while they were both drunk and I'm not going to make the Pogo voice because that's going to feel fucking weird, okay?
Yeah.
And then he put the handcuffs on. And he goes, hey, you want to see a neat trick? And he goes, sure. I'm going to show you how Pogo gets out of handcuffs. And he puts the handcuffs on the guy. And he goes, okay, what's the trick? And then Pogo holds up the key and he puts it on the thing. And he goes, the trick is to have the keys.
I love that as a joke, though.
I love that as a joke, except for what happens next. Then he gets close and he says in his Pogo voice, I'm going to rape you now. And he grabs him by the handcuffs and starts spinning him around saying, I'm going to rape you. Yeah. So anyways, the kid stumbles back. After John Wayne Gacey lets go of him, John Wayne Gacey goes to lurch at him. The kid delivers a high kick, knocks his head back. looks like he's like out for the count. Mm-hmm. He quickly went for the keys, untangled his handcuffs, and like got ready to fight this guy. Pogo the Clown just stared at him and then walked off. The kid ran up the stairs, barricaded the room, and between all the drinks he had and the sedative that he had, he passed out in a dreamless sleep. Woke back up. He didn't move out immediately, but eventually he did. That was like one of our 2 survivors of John Wayne Gacey.
Why would you let this person survive? Was it like, I assume that this is also because he's physically inadequate of making that a fair fight?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it was.
That upsets me.
Yeah.
That upsets me. So
the fact that he let him survive, or
because this one's a little different because
yes.
Again, Gacey didn't go into detail about every single killing. We just know that it was very strangulation based.
Yes, and he usually said something. He usually tried to make it so that the kid kind of wanted it and then tried to back out last second. Is basically how he put most of them. He tried to make it seem like they were doing some BDSM stuff and things got out of control every single time, 33 times. So, you know what the scary... So, for those of you that don't know, it was found that he had 33 bodies underneath his crawl space. And I wish I could... We don't have the time to go into details about all of the stuff that he had. It would take a 4-hour episode to even begin to go into detail about
everything that this goes on. But I mean, we're talking about... Let's jump to 1978, December. The authorities now have the attention of John Wayne Gacey. Like, they're like, you know what? There's these people missing. There's recently a 15-year-old boy who goes missing, who was literally last seen leaving the premises with Gacey. Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, we should look into Gacey.
That was actually a pharmacy. A kid was getting something was waiting for his mom to get done at the pharmacy. Working at the pharmacy. Gacey says, hey kid, you need a job. He goes, maybe that'd be a good idea. He goes, hey, I don't have much time to talk. I'm going to run an errand. We'll be back before your mom knows it. If you want to talk about the job.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, okay. I see you on pictures all around town. You're a cool guy. The kid was never seen again. That was the kid.
Yeah. That's crazy to me. So he's now on the radar. It wasn't until the 21st of December of 1978, police execute a search warrant and find the first set of victims' remains in the crawl space under his house. With this, I think is really interesting because he was actually being looked into prior to this warrant. And the reason that I point that out is because when police and the FBI were tracking him, and John Wayne Gacey was very aware that he was being tracked, started taunting them.
Yes.
Because
this was all in so I'll go over his last few days. So the week before everything happened, before everything started to come crashing down on him, there was a younger black kid that he had picked up, mm-hmm. who was literally digging the trenches that would be his grave, that he didn't realize. Because a lot of times he had his own laborers dig out the trenches of the crawl space. He would give exact directions. He goes, you're going to dig 5 feet in that direction, 5 feet in that direction, and then take that slot out. Because he goes, do not go any further because of gas lines, is what he said. Really, he didn't want them finding any other bodies. And so this kid had been building, and he actually had it worse. I'm talking there was a torture device that he was strung up to, and he was just conscious enough at some points to feel that he was being raped. And eventually he was able to break out and get away. And I think I've alluded to this before. This was the John Wayne Gacey person that went to the police, and the police stopped believing him because whenever he told them that he was gay. That's the guy that I alluded to in the last episode of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, that is crazy. And again, I want to go back to the police thing because I think the police and the FBI tracking him is really interesting. Because while he's getting tracked by the police, if he would go into a restaurant, the police would go in there with him. Very obviously that they were following him.
They were telling him not secretly yet.
But when people would ask Gacey, who's that following you? He would make jokes about oh, that's my security guards.
Yep.
Or oh, these are my hitmen, I'm putting out a hit, or he'd make some joke about, why are these men in suits with guns following you around? Mm-hmm. And he kept joking about it and just kept taunting them. And he gave them no reason to suspect that he was a bad guy, because again, he was a public figure. When he'd go places, he went places that he knew he would be around people who would recognize him.
Yes. And the problem was, at this point, they were getting the warrant to they were
trying to get it. Yeah.
And this took, so he was out drinking all day. And then as the night went on, he started drinking more. And he started going from like, aha, Pogo the Clown, kind of crazy, to losing his fucking mind. I'm talking, he was driving recklessly, he was losing it. He got to the point where after he was done drinking, it was like 2 a.m. at this point, he called his lawyers and he went to his lawyer's office. This is while they're executing the search warrant. They're executing the search warrant as they're at the lawyer's house right now. And if I remember correctly, he told his lawyers everything. You know, there's a there's a confidentiality thing.
Yeah.
Like, the lawyers would be like, oh fuck, you know, like, worst case scenario, what they're supposed to do is not take him as a client.
Yeah.
You know what the lawyers do? They run out to the police officers that have been tailing him and says, you've got to fucking arrest this guy. You have to. I cannot represent him. He's a fucking monster. He's killed so many people. You've got to get him out of here. The lawyers that have been representing him for years,
could have... There could have been a possibility of a complete mistrial of this whole thing.
Because of that.
Yes. Oh my god.
But luckily, they already had the warrants for other reasons. So it would have just been the lawyer's testimony that got thrown out. And they found 33 bodies of young kids that he had hired while being a supposed beacon of the community. Hired them for labor to basically dig their own fucking graves.
So here's the other thing with the 33 people. They weren't all identified.
No.
So going into this, we get to October 12th, 2011, as they were able to identify 8 more victims. Then November, they did 1 more. So this is 2011. 2017, it looks like they identified another victim. Yeah, so we get another victim in 2017, and then as of 2021, we are still missing. How many are we missing right now? 8? Yeah, we're missing 8.
Yep, and
we're still missing 8 out of 33 people who are unidentified that were found underneath Gacey's cross. That hurts me so much that these young men, these boys, are almost forgotten because of this monster. Like, that's crazy to me.
They never had a chance to... They actually thought they were on the way to fixing their lives by working for a respected man in the community and making a decent wage again.
Okay, that upsets me. The only thing that brings me comfort, that is, Gacey does get euthanized. Mm-hmm. With this
man was a danger to society. There was no chance of reform. Death. This
is the other thing, is him and Jeffrey Dahmer are compared a lot, especially around the same time period. Yes. Mm-hmm. Him and Dahmer on May 10th, 1994, and this is where it crosses, and I think this is also very weird. On May 10th, 1994, there is a lunar eclipse, or solar eclipse. John Wayne Gacey is executed, and Jeffrey Dahmer is baptized.
All on the same day. Oh my god.
So that to me is crazy. This man is getting executed, and that's what they had. I'm going to scroll down because I also want to read...
you have some of his backstory back here.
Yeah. I also want to talk about his last words, and I want to do a whole episode. So you might get that this month, as we might do an episode of serial killers and their last meals and their last words. You know what Gacey's last words were? He was strapped up to the chair, about to get euthanized. They were like, Any last words? He goes, yeah, kiss my ass. Which to me is hilarious. So, because there's some, and I'm gonna get into this when we do this episode, killers in their last words, because there's some really great ones. There's like, I'll be back. There's it's finally done. I mean, you also get to like French royalty, where we start talking about like Marie Antoinette, and her last words were pardon me, because she stepped on the executioner's foot before she got the axe to her throat. So how messed up, like, she was like, I'm so sorry, and the only reason she's being executed is because people thought that she was quoted on saying let them eat cake while the rest of her country starved, which was a misquote.
To be fair, she was still royalty that had like crazy amounts of money while the rest of her country did starve to death.
Yes.
To be fair.
But also, like, this poor woman to her deathbed was still like,
she was still trying
I'm so sorry.
Oh, pardon me. Dies.
Oh, and it wasn't an easy death. Like, they took a couple swings to get that to break through.
From what I understand, they tried to build that one.
Yeah, that was. But again, that's why I want to talk about killers and their last meals and their last words. I think it would be a great episode called The Last of Killers. I think it'd be great. Let me know down in the comments.
So as we know, we're going to talk about it more and more at serial killer ones. This one was kind of if you want like an in-depth look at Gacey, let us know. But like, this is just so much to get into. Mostly what we're going to be talking about, what we've talked about so far, is just kind of like the background information. So what do you think about? Like,
we found, again, with Gacey, what's crazy is, again, Gacey didn't tell everything, which makes him different. And why this is so different and hard to go through Gacey is because he only I believe he only confessed to 30 of the 33. Mm-hmm.
And
even then, he didn't give details on a lot of it.
No, and
he
a lot
would
of times
lie and change a story.
And even for the kid that we know was like barely conscious while strapped to something while being raped, he completely changes the story based on what the victim says. Like, lies about so much, and it's so hard to get a straight story out of it. Basically what we can assume is that the story is somewhere around what we heard from the other two victims that were able to get away.
That's crazy, but I'd love to do more of these. I'd love to get a guest in, because I know that we have a guest who loves these. I think next week's going to be very interesting, because I would love us to do that episode with multiple guests that I have coming in.
Do you think we're going to be able to do that at the new location?
No, I won't. This is going to be before moving in.
Got it.
We're getting a new bunker. But we're going to get them. I want to do an episode. I'm going to let them know, have them pick a topic, because I think it'd be awesome. But we're going to find out. I'll let you know. But it's going to be amazing. We're going to get guests, and I'm talking about, we're going to get somebody on our level who loves conspiracy that's going to get on this podcast.
So he's going to have like a tinfoil...
I can ask him to bring him.
Okay.
Because he has a bunker out in Texas.
Oh, hell yeah. No, that's my kind of man.
They also own like property for hunting. So like... Also another reason why I want to go to Texas.
All right.
So I'm just gonna kidnap you and a couple other people. We're gonna go to Texas.
All right, I'll get a quality damn hat better than that one right there.
That's what we're doing.
Hell yeah.
We do anything. We're getting hats.
So in a lot of cases with these serial killers, it is nature and nurture.
Yes.
I don't know, because there was no warning signs whenever he was a kid. I think it was all nurture that fucked him up. I'm talking his dad's brutal abuse to his mom's accidental psychological abuse. She was trying to, I guess in a fucked up way, trying to teach him, but she didn't understand why that was bad for whatever reason. And I think it was because of that, mixed with the molestation that was happening when he was a kid, that made him who he was.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to compare him to Dahmer again, because we just did Dahmer. Dahmer wanted the electric chair, or at least euthanization, and they didn't give it to him. Where Gacey pled insanity, not wanting the death penalty, and he was very upset that he got the death penalty.
Yep.
But he was also not afraid to die. He was, I believe, he was also Christian. He was also very contempt with the afterlife,
which is pretty awful considering like most of his life was not very Christian. Yeah.
But again, I also feel the location of his upbringing, the time frame, what we do know about his upbringing, it makes sense of his outcome. However,
it doesn't excuse what happened.
It doesn't excuse.
Because there are plenty of people that have fucked up histories that do not turn into people that kill 33 kids and hide them in their basement.
But again, and this, I want to point this out too, is the cops, again, in this location, in this serial killer, the cops mess up because they could have caught him
on a couple
multiple times before.
And the worst part was like, oh, you mean that guy that like literally our police chief has drinks with all the time is a rapist and a murderer? Go fuck yourself. Like,
you mean John? He built my house.
Yeah, like what the fuck you on about?
I voted for him in the last neighborhood watch meeting. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that, you know? I get it. However, it's so crazy. I mean, look out for those red flags. And I mean, maybe we should do an episode of red flags.
Okay, so we need to have two different things. So we need to have like a growing list of red flags, because one of them is like having a fascination with killing animals when you're a kid.
Hear me out. Instead of making an episode, we do a mock stand-up routine of what's his face, where he's like, you might be a redneck if Jeff Foxworthy, but we do, you might be a serial killer if we just do a red flag stand-up bit, right?
If you like to kill animals and dissect them when you're a child, you might be a serial killer. Yeah, that would be great. And then what we also need to do is just like have a list of like, if you're a criminal, don't do these things. Because like letting your victim get away.
Also, and again, this is also another thing with serial killers is both Gacey and
high IQ, is that what you're gonna say?
His IQ was high, but also he was charged in another state for molestation. Yeah. So again,
he had a history.
These are sexual predators who then become serial. You might be a serial killer if.
Dude, how was he allowed to be a clown with kids if he had a molestation on his
That's
record?
what I'm saying. Again, cops, do the background check.
For fuck's sake. Like, you know what the problem is? To become an elected official, you don't need a background check. And so
that's a bullshit. I got to do background check.
Yeah, so if you don't need at least back then you didn't. And if you don't need a background check to become an elected official, and then an elected official wants to volunteer at your charity event for kids, you're not going to question that he's an elected official. He's the mayor. He's
whatever. That upsets me.
Yeah, that pisses me the fuck off. Yeah.
All right. That's all I think we should cover for Gacey for today.
Yeah, there's a lot more we can get into.
There's so much that we could get into about this, but because it's so open, because he was not very honest, we can speculate, we can comment on his interviews based off body language, off of information that we currently have. But again, I don't want to go into names for the respective families and victims. And
really good video that gives a very good detailed account of everything. If you guys are ready to sit down and watch for about 3.5 hours, is The Casual Criminalist. He has a great video on John Wayne Gacey, and yeah, it's a great video.
I put my hand up here. This is where we'll link it. Shout out.
We'll link it. You gotta put all.
We'll link it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you have about as far as like anything on this?
That's really like the most of it that I kind of like summarized. There's a lot that we could go into.
We have individual stories we could talk about. We have all kinds of things we could talk about. But that is the overarching thing with John Wayne Gacey, is he was just a guy who didn't have a chance at a normal life and fucking fell into it.
I can go in examples of where he also plays his power card in the community, even with police, where like police want to like ask him questions, and he goes, you know what, I'll come in and I'll talk to you, and then shows up at like 3 a.m. when nobody's there.
Yep.
And goes, cool, nobody's here to talk to me, I got stuff to do, and leaves.
Yep.
So it's that power manipulation, and again, like obviously he's sexually inadequate because of his upbringing.
Another interesting story.
He's never been good enough for his father.
Another interesting story. He was about to lose it for his first time with a girl, 17. He fainted because of that heart condition.
Of course he did. So also, just to put it into perspective, again, we talked about how him and Dahmer were executed and baptized on the same day. Dahmer was baptized just a few days before he was murdered. Yep. They died the same year.
Yep. That is fucking nuts, isn't it?
Yeah. That is... This is 94?
Yes.
Yeah. So that to me is crazy.
What year were you born?
97.
Okay.
So a little before me. But it's still crazy. But in our lifetime, they found... or at least identified some of these bodies.
Like 6 or 7 of those bodies, yeah.
In our lifetime, which I think is crazy. And the fact that they're
Isn't there someone currently living in John Wayne Gacy's house right now?
I believe so. There's someone currently living in Dahmer's childhood home, the one in Ohio.
Okay. I remember... how are you on, like, ghost stuff?
I love ghost stuff. I am a giant freaking pussy, but I love ghost stuff.
We need to do some ghost hunting stuff.
I would love to do some ghost hunting.
That would be lit.
Another reason why I want to go to Texas, I want to go to like Goatman's Bridge and like
we've got shit in like Havasu. We've got or not in Havasu.
We have mines. Let's go explore some mines. I guarantee you, we'll find some like Spanish invader.
We could just go to Flagstaff. Like there's like 2 haunted hotels up there.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Road trip.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to cover today?
That is all. But remember, if you want to reach out to us, we're on Instagram. We
don't have a Twitter yet.
We don't have a Twitter. I'm not a big Twitter user. If you want to get one going,
I guess. I mean, Twitter's a kind of a cesspool of a place. I'm not really sure if it's worth.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Twitter's dirty.
All right.
But we are on Instagram. If you want to reach out, you can DM us. We're on YouTube. We also have an email, bunkerbuddyspodcast@gmail.com.
And we got our own YouTube channel now, which I believe is just above, might be right at 10 subscribers right now.
Yeah.
And our Instagram is popping. Our Instagram is popping.
We did jump a lot since our last episode. So I want to keep that momentum going. I kind of want to get more. I'm trying to get people from my TikTok to come over into the other platforms because we don't have a Bunkers Buddy TikTok, but I use my TikTok platform to promote us because I have a little over 3,000 followers.
All right, let's get some. Go ahead and put this clip right here. Hey, TikTok, if you want to see some cool conspiracies, mysteries, murders, and much, much more, go ahead and go to the Bunker Buddies podcast at youtube.com.
Love it.
All right.
And if you guys keep this up, we'll make a Twitch channel for this.
Oh, yeah.
If you can get us enough reason to get a Twitch channel.
Let's get a specific goal. You want to say 500 followers on Instagram, or should we go off of YouTube?
Let's go off of Instagram.
300?
I'm fine with 500. I think 500 is a great number. If we can get 500 on Instagram, we will do a Twitch.
All right.
I think 500 is a nice number. I like that big 5. And that's all I have. We will be posting content every week for the month of October for our Spooktacular. We already have one up right now. We're going to be making sure that we keep that up. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify or anywhere you find podcasts right now. It'll be uploaded to Apple pretty soon. I'm working on that.
Nice. All right.
It's just I don't have any Apple products, so it's going to take me a second, but it will get up to Apple.
All right. I think that wraps us up. Let's head back into the bunker. See y'all next time.